Hello everyone, welcome to the deserted village of Feltville. I have blisters the size of biscuits from these f***ing boots, and I can't wait to get started. What's up YouTube? I was driving by and I saw something called the deserted village of Feltville, and I said we definitely have to go there. Although it's very clearly not deserted, so they could just call this the village of Feltville. A quick apology, many of you DM'd me on Instagram after the video I made about Denmark and Taylor, and I deleted all of those messages by accident. I switched my account from business to personal, wiped. Okay, so like the title of this video says, this is the ultimate Doc Marten boot guide. I have three boots with, well, two boots and one shoe. I have the 1460s, which are the original Doc Marten boots. Then I have the 1461s, which are the Oxfords, but I got them in vegan leather, so we can talk about the difference between Doc Marten leather and their vegan offering. And then finally, I got a pair of Solivare monkey boots, which it's a big battle between Solivare and Doc Marten made in England quality. I think there's a hands down winner, so we'll get into that. And I'll tell you why all of your snobby friends say Doc Martens are horrible and Solivare is way better. I forgot to mention there's also something weird with the way they stitch the sole onto these boots. It's done in a way where you can repair the boot, but they make it exceedingly difficult. So we'll talk about that too. What's up? Post-filming Mike here. I'm gonna guide you through everything. So first things first, we will go over the 1460s. If I say the word Doc Marten, you're probably thinking of this boot, and people have a lot of, I guess, beef with Doc Martens because they used to be a lot better quality, and then when popularity went way down for Doc Martens, Doc Marten basically almost declared bankruptcy. Then they went overseas and basically stayed afloat by doing that. So now we have these, which are not as good as they used to be. But here's the thing, this is the only thing that I think. These are, I believe, $170, and you can get them on sale a lot, and people don't like the quality of the leather or the stitching or certain things like that. But I do think for the price of $170 or lower with that sale, there isn't a lot of other boots in the ring that just smash it out of the park. But the big point being, Doc Martens are a special boot because they're so iconic that most people, I feel like, aren't looking for just any leather Goodyear welted boot. They want Doc Martens. So I think for the quality, I don't really think you're getting ripped off. I think you could get a little bit more for your money. We'll get into Made in England and Solivare, like I said, and I'll explain why there's that big difference. The reason that I would suggest you get the plain Jane Doc Martens and not the Made in England ones is because, but for the most part, I'm cool with them. Well, I did buy these boots. I'm wearing them right now. I'm not disappointed for the price that I paid for them. So right off the bat, I think you'll be okay. First deserted house. I can't go to that one because that's private residence, but this one, I can. The biggest thing about these leather boots is obviously the leather. And my friend Marcus came over recently and saw my boots and said, these don't feel like they're made of leather. And I said, well, they are, Marcus, so shut the hell. They are made of leather. The only thing is that this is it's like a medium weight leather. It's stiff though, because there's so much finish on the outside, and there's so much finish because this leather isn't really expensive. The more expensive leather you get is flawless. There's not a lot of scars or nicks on the leather. This one does, but what Doc Marten does is they have a finish that they put over it. The reason that is not that good is because that means the boots don't age as well. And actually, something that I noticed while filming this is that there's bubbling going on with mine. So interestingly enough, the bubbling went away, but I also walked in the water with these boots and got them all wet. I don't know if that fixed it. Either way, I would definitely return it if I wasn't doing this review, but that's not a good thing. But anyways, that's because the finish separates from the leather over time and starts to flake off when just full grain leather with no finish or very light finish ages better and looks prettier for longer. This is kind of interesting because that kind of ties into the fact that it's really tough to resole Doc Marten boots. The interesting though with this leather though is people are always worried it's going to look really bad. Even though there's a finish on these boots, I haven't really seen, and I scoured all over the internet, I haven't seen trash Doc Martens to a point. Well, besides my friend Artemis's boots, actually, they messed them up. I don't know how they did that, but those look horrible. And you see the flaking off, that's the top coat that I'm talking about. But for the most part, for a pair of regular black 1460s, I can't really find really crazy thrashed boots on Google, on Reddit, or anything like that. So I don't really think aging is a huge issue. The only issue is if there is cracking on the top coat, which can happen, it's basically impossible to repair. So they're just gonna look like that. And that's what people don't like a lot. And they bubble. Now, this is a really big reason as to why a lot of boot nerds hate Doc Martens. I'll explain this. It will come in handy later. It's very important to the value of these boots. Picture a car, and the car has tires on it. Goodyear welted boots, usually when the tires run out, you can pop the tires off, you put new ones on, car's good to go. The way Doc Marten does it essentially is if the tires wear down, you kind of have to take the whole engine out of the car and like save it a little bit, but like part of it's ruined and then you have to put it back in, and then you find out like Toyota's like, oh, by the way, you can't get the good tires for this car anymore because those are ours, we won't sell those to you. They stitch the welt to the upper and then they heat seal that PVC welt to the sole. So they melt the welt to the sole so it becomes one piece of rubber or rubber plastic, whatever I said, which is great. It's fused together, it won't separate. That's awesome. However, when you want to replace the actual sole of the boot, you have to pull the entire sole off and the welt's gone, which isn't that big of a deal. But what is interesting is Doc Martin doesn't let you get these Airwalk soles. You just can't get them. So you have to put a different sole on. So then you have the Doc Martin upper, but a different sole. It looks a little different. Boot nerds hate that. Part 2, the vegan 1461s, the Oxford shoes. I have worn plenty of boots. I reviewed plenty of boots. Even before I had a YouTube channel, I wore boots. I break in wool jackets and stuff all the time. It never bothers me. Plenty of boots. These Doc Martens are not that bad to break in. 1461s broke me. They destroyed my tootsies. The Doc Marten store is 2.5 miles away from my apartment, so I walked there with my shoes on. I got there. The lady I talked to had a collection of over 100 Doc Martens, but I brought the 1461s and she said, are you familiar with the Doc Marten break-in process? I said yes. I lied. The boots aren't bad. Like I said, I could walk forever with these boots. The 1461s, I haven't broken in a lot of shoes. I probably got like a half mile and then all of a sudden I was like, I think I'm not okay. Huge blisters in the back, really gross. I was gonna show them to you and then I was like, maybe that's a weird thing to do, but just absolutely destroyed my feet. 1461s are Doc Marten's slimmest Oxford. I really like them. We'll get into the material more in depth in a second. It is a vegan material and it is a cheaper material to make shoes out of in general. But if you watch Rose Anvil's video on YouTube, he basically shows that Doc Marten does make up for this because they don't reduce the price. It looks like they increase the quality of the materials on the soles. So you have a felted wool midsole, so a little nicer materials there. Oh, wait a minute. It can't be felted wool because that's not vegan. It looks like the materials are better. Maybe they're actually not. I'm not too sure. It does look like they did beef up the internals to kind of justify the price a little bit more. From a business standpoint, it's probably more profitable to do that than lower the price. So they did do that. And I've heard mixed reports from people on the material itself. Some people say they disintegrate in 2 weeks and other people are like, I've had mine for 7 years and they're perfect. The thing that people do generally like is that they're a bit better in the water because they're not leather. But the only thing I have about that, I haven't tried mine in the water. Interjection, I just did a waterproof test and these Doc Marten boots are actually dramatically more water resistant than I thought. So the plastic ones technically would be better in the water because leather does get a little bit softer when it's wet. The plastic won't. There's a stream down there, so I'm gonna go in there because that's where all the dead people from the village come out at night and drown you. Phew, just feel like the pacing is very quick in this video, so I figured I'd just give us all a quick break, no music, just to give it a little, you know, split in the half of the video. So here we go, back to business. Going to submerge the stitch. And much to my delight, these boots were fantastic in the water. A bit better than I thought. Ooh, really in there. The right boot's really deep in there. I'll be honest, I love doing the waterproof tests and I film them, but when I try to edit them in, I really have no idea what to do because it's just really me standing in the water every few minutes going, wow, my feet are still dry.
Still dry, wow, still wetter than I thought.
So here's the end. They stay dry the entire time. They're amazing. Okay, so if you're trying to decide, should you get the vegan, aka plastic ones, or the leather ones, I'm not gonna hate on the vegan ones at all, but the only reason I think you should get them is if you are vegan, because then obviously you can get Doc Martens. Otherwise, I just think the leather has a better hand feel. I do think the plastic ones are probably a little bit better in snow and slush and rain over time, but there is such a heavy top coat on the leather ones too that it's probably a marginal difference. It's probably not a lot because this acts as kind of a water repellent too. And the other thing, the original point I had was that, and I had to redo this take, is plastic, I thought, well, once it's gone, it's kind of gone. It's ruined, you can't really repair it at all. But then I thought with the leather ones, that heavy top coat flakes off and there's nothing you can really do there either. So it's kind of a draw. And these boots aren't really meant to be repaired or resold that often. You kind of just have to get new ones. So they're kind of at a draw besides the fact that leather feels better. And when you're aging it, you know, you're aging leather, like you're seeing the creases in leather. Otherwise, it's kind of like bent plastic. And I feel like if it didn't have the yellow stitching or the Doc Marten brand behind it, these would be like $20 shoes you find at TJ Maxx. Like the $20 plastic shoes that don't breathe, that are kind of just gross. So unless you're vegan, I would get the leather daddies. That way you could be a leather daddy. The only other thing before we get into made in England Doc Martens and Solivare is that Doc Martens, all of them, do not have a shank. So between the heel of your foot and the ball of your foot, sometimes on boots, there is a shank made of wood, metal, carbon fiber, whatever. And the point of that shank is basically to not have the boot bend as much, like sag down when you're walking or standing. And what that does is basically make your feet less tired throughout the day. So that's actually a big thing. If you're getting these for comfort, maybe look at other options with the shank. If you want comfort and style, we'll talk about that in a second, but that will kind of over time affect you a bit more. So Doc Martens are easier to break in from the start, but Solovaires are a bit tougher, but you'll have more comfort down the line. Okay, well, I'm about to blow your freaking mind. If someone said, hey Michael, I'm looking to get a pair of Doc Marten boots. My budget is unlimited. Should I get the made in England ones, which are made in England out of better materials, better leather, better interior materials and all that? Or should I get the cheap 1460 stupid dumb ones like you have? I would actually say get the stupid dumb ones. And I'll tell you why in a second, but, well, actually no, that's all I have to talk about. I'll tell you why now. The reason that I would suggest you get the plain Jane Doc Martens and not the made in England ones is because yes, you'll get a better leather. Yes, the quality of the midsoles will be better, but I feel like what you're paying for mostly, which is a third of the boot price added on to the made in England versions, is the made in England part, which is great and that's awesome because it's obviously important, but if you're going for pure value and you just want a better built boot, that I feel like is where Solovaire. So I love Solovaire, I really do, and I'm sure I got a manufacturing defect, but I do want to say I've worn these boots 8 times, and so far a tab on the back has ripped off on the right boot, and my boot lace snapped. So things are not looking good. I just reached out to them. I'm sure they'll fix it, and I'm sure this is a manufacturing defect, but whoops. Solovaire boots are actually cheaper than Doc Marten made in England's. Real quick, let's go over why. Doc Martens, like I said, the made in England's better leather, so that'll age fine. That's probably on par with Solovaire's there. Better midsoles, that's probably also on par with Solovaire. With Solovaire though, it's also a much smaller company. They're one of the original makers of the original Doc Martens. Their boots have a shank in them, so they're a bit more comfortable over long periods of time, and they're Goodyear welted in a more regularly accepted way, so they're easier to resole. The leather being nicer means that you can resole them and use them a lot more, and they'll age cool. And if you get the Derby 8-eyed boot, it's essentially the exact same boot as Doc Martens. So cheaper, better quality, better features. Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. And it's from the original maker of the boot. So you're not really getting a different boot. The only thing that they don't do is the yellow stitching. So if the yellow stitching is a big deal, then you kind of have to get the made in England Doc Martens if you want to get the highest quality. But if it's not, I really suggest you go to Solovaire, check them out, see what they have. Not sponsored by either of these people. I would love to be. Oh, I might do a sponsored video soon. How exciting is that? Or a little sponsored blurb. But anyways, that's what I think. Just gonna sit here in the deserted village of Feltville until all the monsters come out and chase the residents away. Anyways though, that is about it. I won't lie, I'm starting to get the heebie-jeebies, especially with my back to the window, so I will see you next week. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and we'll go somewhere else scary. Maybe I'll just turn this into Mike's Spooky Adventures. I'm also posting a new video, I promise, this week on Michael Christie, my other YouTube channel, so subscribe there if you'd like, and I'll see you there too. We never know. You know, I actually do know because it's my life, but